think it will not work, but as some of the other landlords have said, I don't really see how it can work. Inspecting an occupied property is extremely hard. You end up moving, you have to move beds to get the outlets. You have to, make arrangements with tenants. That is tough. If you do it between tenants, much easier. Anyways, I'll let that rest. Again, I'm available to talk to anyone who would like to hear me on this. My second comment is in this Better Landlords program. I was not here on Wednesday during the session. However, I read the Mercury article. I read the report that the gentleman gave. I got the PDF of it. And it says here that rental properties cost between 47 and 163% more to the borough for municipal services. I would really like to see him substantiate his data on that. I've owned dozens of properties in this town. My family owns hundreds of properties in this town. Properties that I managed never in 18 years had a police call to them. Never in 18 years had a fire call to them. How does my property in that equation? I don't understand that. Now, yes, the borough does go out there to inspect. Are they counting these inspections as part of the load in the borough? But I end up paying for the inspections. And again, I read through that report. I see a lot of holes in that report. But again, I would ask council, if you're going to act on it, which I don't think you're going to, but have this gentleman substantiate his data, because I think some of these, this summary has just got to be wrong. But here's the solution. Instead of complaining about what not to do, here's the solution I would offer to you. There's a lot of landlords in this audience right now, and I know some of them a little bit, but I can tell you most of them are all problem solvers. If you have a problem with bad landlords, trust me, I'm your #1 fan. I have gone after some of the landlords in this town. I've owned properties next to some of these bad landlords in this town. I've had conversations that you as council people could not have with these people. But it's, I would reach out to some of the landlord groups in this town. I'll be happy to work with council how to target some of these bad property managers. They are a problem. They upset me more than anybody. But anyways, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Gretchen Lee.
I'm Gretchen Lee, and I own some rental properties in Pottstown, and years ago I had a shop in Pottstown. And I came to speak tonight because I'm in support of regentrifying or fixing up the Viceres building. When I came to Pottstown, I really fell in love with it because I saw the great potential. And I figured, I guess if you guys are on council, you live in Pottstown too. And things sort of made me sad when I'd see old buildings that were historic would just crumble. And I'd always say, well, why doesn't anybody do anything about it? But I guess there is no economic potential for it, so they just crumble. There's nothing else to do. Same thing with Viceres. I mean, I thought, gee, you have great condos, but I even talked to my husband about it. He said, you never get your money back out of it. And my husband was a builder and a developer, and I'm sure a lot of other people said that too. So along comes this idea. Well, first of all, I think people don't want housing for low income because maybe they're assuming all low wage earners are bad people. It's not true. If we could low wage earners who have been screened to be good people and give them a chance, we get more partners in Pottstown working for the positive. I'm a true believer in Pottstown community and thought it was so neat, so I supported the art theater and in little ways art fusion, but I was really behind the art theater. The theater, and I think we've all seen what a success that is. A lot of the people that came up in the audience tonight are involved in Pottstown doing things that have worked. So they're all supporting another team player that they think might work. So I would think it's a much better chance of this project winning than just letting the place lay vacant, attract crime, and then it's only getting worse. And one more thing about people in the arts. You get a couple of people with good ideas or with creative ideas together. You would not believe the energy and what grows out of it. So I think we're attracting the right people, and I want you guys to support it. Thanks.
David Charles.
Good evening, everyone. I'm a longtime resident of Pottstown. I grew up in, it's called Bright Hope now. It was Penn Village. We had a program there that was called Recreation, where a lot of the kids in that neighborhood went to a small office, and we did arts and crafts, and we played kickball. It changed my life. It actually changed everything about me to actually get with young people in the community, do arts and crafts, draw. It was touching. I miss that. I miss that for the young people in our town today. We had an opportunity with cruising on High Street to make a real change in our town. When people were coming, thousands of people were coming here to cruise. I was one of the young guys on High Street, looking at everyone, meeting people. We didn't close on that opportunity. We have an opportunity right now. I am an artist. I've lived in Europe, I've lived in LA, I've lived in New York. I am back to help make change. This project on Beach Street will be the heartbeat of our town. I live in Pottstown now. I was living in Royersford for 5 years. I just moved back 2 months ago. There's other alumni that have moved back to the area. Ryan Wallace, Howard Brown is now back from Spain. We want to collaborate with Art Fusion and do everything we can for change in this town. We need your support. I plan to walk the streets of Beach Street, Franklin, everywhere I have to. I know everyone in this town. Drug users, I know everyone. And I will do whatever it takes to make this successful. Do you understand that? I will do whatever it takes. I currently go into the schools, I rewrite popular songs for the young people. I've done it at Rupert, I've done it at Pottstown Middle School, I've done it at Lincoln, about the PSSA testing. Getting these kids excited. They want that all the time. This will be a destination that we can get these young people together and build character. You have my word. Thank you for your time.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak? Okay. At this time, I'm going to open it up to council for their comments. And being the council president, I'm going to take the privilege of doing that. I have a prepared statement, and Evan and Paige, you don't have to worry, I have a copy for you guys later on. The Visons Beach Street project is troublesome in so many ways, and no one has been more critical on the various aspects of this project as it changed with every presentation that has been brought before us. Over the years, especially recently, citizens of our community have called me on the phone, sent emails, appeared before council and stated that we do not want any more rental properties, Section 8, and most of all, we do not need any more affordable housing. The reasons given to me varied, but they all had common themes. It lowers surrounding property values, it is a strain on our borough resources, especially our police and codes departments, and is a major deterrent in having good, solid investors coming to our town. We had a study done labeled Better Landlord Program, which was brought to our codes department by some of the town activists in helping to get a better handle on problem properties and landlords. The study, while it had various pieces of information presented to council, the one that stood out to me was the direct correlation between rental units and crime, which causes a major strain on our resources and burdens us, the owner-occupied properties, in oh so many ways. Yet, this project is supported by many of the same individuals and citizens group who complain that we have too many rental units, Section 8, and affordable housing. We've been told that investors cannot come to our town and do projects without some form of subsidies, whether it be grants, tax credits, KOZs, TIFs, LRTAs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That they can make the bottom line work. But how did the Mrs. Smith Townhouse project proceed and has almost reached completion with market rate homes? And Patient First get built. Haggerty Steel complete construction of a new building. And Sly Fox come to our community, and Video Ray, and Sigus, and many, many other projects and investors, all without any form of subsidies. With that being stated, however, as your council president, and this is directed to council, I'm asking council to vote yes on sending a letter of support for the Viceres project for the following reasons. With all the many good things that have been accomplished over the last few years and recently with the support of council, I don't want us to carry the label of what if. Like, the what if we would have built the Only Childhood Learning Center, which would have been a private-public partnership, debt-free, and would have cleared up a large part of blight, and crime in our community, instead of a huge debt service that we will be carrying for many years. Instead, the blight and crime continues to be a severe problem in the area where the Learning Center would have been built. What if we would have built the Pearl Group Age-Restricted Community Project for low-income seniors, affordable housing, using tax credits? Does that sound familiar? Except the letter-writing campaign took place in opposition to this project by some of the same individuals who now support the Viceres project. Their main reason in opposition was the project did not bring the magic development as described in the ULI study. Just imagine if the Pearl Group project would have been built. It would have been adjacent to the Mrs. Smith Townhouse project. Families living in these homes may have had parents or grandparents living in the age-restricted resident. Within walking distance of their family, seniors, children, grandkids enjoying the Schuylkill River Trail, walking to our downtown restaurants, the theater. Just imagine the magic. Currently, the property is owned and maintained by the borough, still sits vacant, waiting for a developer who I suppose will need some form of subsidy to bring magic to this area. To council, and especially to those council that I've had conversation with, I realize this is a complete turn in my opinion. However, I did not receive one phone call, any letters, and only 2 emails in opposition of this project. Only support from the vocal minority and silence from the silent majority, which was deafening. I have no clue of the needs or desires with this project of those people. I realize the hectic schedule of families today, but we as counselors are just a phone call away, an email away, and need as much input on any subject that is brought before us so we can properly address the needs of the many instead of the wants of a few. This project could end up being everything that they have promised us, and an anchor in the area which will lead to redevelopment of that area surrounding the project, with big kudos to the drivers behind this project. But it could end up as a nightmare if we as a community do not hold them to everything that they have stated on many occasions as to their intentions and promises. If they don't hold true to their promises and we allow them not to do this, then shame on every one of us in the community for allowing this to happen. In closing, once again, as your council president, I urge you to vote in support of the letter so councils a year from now aren't saying, what if? Thank you.
A couple of things bother me about this project. One is the Sutton County involvement or interest in Pottstown. We used to jump through hoops and do what they asked us to do, but it always seems like getting money from the county was always like pulling teeth. Suddenly, they see a situation where they can forward their own agenda. They can dump some of their programs onto Pottstown, and suddenly they're interested in us. They want to give money to us. the money suddenly appears. I have a problem with that. Secondly, and piggybacking off of what the president said, this exact same project was proposed on the boulevard with less risk than what this is, because and that project was vilified, it was lied about, it was picketed, and it was mostly against just one particular community group and individuals. That project had less risk because it was elderly people who would have less strain on the police department. There was no children involved, which is less strain on the school system. But yeah, it was vilified at the time because of quote unquote Section 8 and all these things, all these quotes and stuff they put out there about Section 8 and things like that. Now, all of a sudden, these same groups of individuals are lining up testifying for this project. The exact same project, a little more risk because now there's children involved in these houses, which is going to put a strain onto Pottstown school system. And now, there's also the opportunity for there to be more strain on the police department. But yet they're all lining up for this project. And I ask myself, why? Why the change? You know, there's going to be Section 8 here, possibly. So did they just drop their agenda for Section 8? It just dropped now? They don't care about Section 8 now? Why the change? Okay. Now the change is, and I've done questioning, and I asked people who's involved. I asked Vision. The difference is that they're getting something out of this. Okay. They're teaming together with Vision, and they're going to further their own agenda and their own programs. Okay, that's the difference from then to now. It's a shame because they come up here and talk about how they care about Pottstown. We care about Pottstown, but then but all of a sudden the Section 8 thing drops. If you care about Pottstown, what happened to your agenda about Section 8? How you feel so much against it? It just seems to me, it's my own personal opinion, it seems to me that they really don't care about Pottstown. They care about their own personal agenda being notarized and everything that they care about being pushed forward. They don't care about Pottstown. They really don't, as far as my opinion goes. Nevertheless, I'm not going to throw the baby away with the bathwater. The fact is, I think this is a good project. I think it's going to get rid of blight. I think the community wants it. I think it'll be good for the community. Even though the tax is not what we would like it to be, we are going to get some revenue from it. So I'm going to vote for the project.
Thank you. I think if you recall, I said after the first time Housing Visions came and gave this presentation to us that I was intrigued by this whole project, and I continue to be. There were a couple things said tonight that really struck me. One was Mr. Monastra, the fear of failure. I mean, I'm with him. I can't guarantee that this is going to be a 100% successful project. I don't know that we're going to be able to attract artists to the community to fill the property. But what I do know is right now it's vacant and nothing is happening to it. And I don't, we have a respectable organization with what I believe to be a proven track record, willing to invest $12 million in the borough. I don't see how I can turn my back to that. I hope that it works out. And another, I think it was Miss Lee, said something that I think we all need to kind of ponder a little when we're discussing issues like this, and it feeds into some of the general discussions we've had. I think too often we are very loose with our language, and we do equate terms like low income, affordable housing, and Section 8 with bad people. And the reality of it is is that the vast majority of the residents of Pottstown probably would be considered low income. I mean, look at our median income and you know, take that, divide it by the number of hours in a work week, and we need a housing stock that will satisfy our population. Now, that doesn't, you know, the other side of that is there are people within the category of low income in need of affordable housing who make horrible tenants. We don't want those people here, but I'm satisfied Housing Vision has a program in place to screen the applicants so that we get good, law-abiding citizens that will move into the borough. And you know, I said when I came before Borough Council for my initial interview to fill a vacant spot on this, on council, that, you know, we needed to look for different ways to attract people to the borough, and I think this is one of them. You know, as I said, we have an outside organization willing to invest $12 million into refurbishing what is a decaying structure. You know, when somebody's willing to put their money where their mouth is, I'm willing to give them the benefit, and I support the program.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you. I've been working and serving this borough for, you know, probably 12 years on the planning commission, 6 years here, and other projects in between. I think back to the Smith Pie property and the promise of that wonderful developer whose first building was going to be a strip mall of boutiques along Hanover Street. Think of other developers that came in and promised all kinds of things, and we're still waiting. And with that experience, I'm still raising some questions about this project. One is, based on my last 6 years as chair of the finance committee here, borough manager, finance director, and their staff did a phenomenal job to put our finances in order, get us refinanced, make us solvent, get us from no bond rating to a AA. And we're pretty stable. And we still get blamed for the high taxation here in Pottstown, which is not really the truth. The high taxation is the cost of educating our students here in Pottstown. A lot of the failure I would relate and blame on the state. They don't even follow their own Third Amendment in their Article 3 in our own state constitution to have a fair and equal education from corner to corner. And because of that, places like Pottstown, in contrast with places like King of Prussia, put an undue burden on their property owners. Now we're asking for, or I should say they're asking, to create this $12 million building property. And by their own projection, not till after 2030 will they pay their fair share to the education system that we need desperately to educate our youth. And I find it hard to believe that any school official, whether it be superintendent, school board member, or anyone else, would support cutting their own financial throat for the next 20 years on a project such as this.
The other option.
That's not fair. If you want to go through the algorithm, I'd gladly do that with anybody afterwards. That's not fair. I was sent here, elected here to do the best I could for the constituents in all of Pottstown. And I do not think that's fair to the people who invested their lives maintaining their homes here in town. The other thing, this project puts an excess burden of parking on an area that was probably designed 80 or 100 years ago when only half the families owned one car. not one per person, plus visitors. Proposal creates, if Art Fusion indeed moves, this proposal creates another vacant building on High Street. And if a business such as Art Fusion can't make it on our most vibrant street in town, how well will they fare 4 blocks away up on Beach? The last thing that hasn't been addressed, to my satisfaction, is what happens to this project if art is the focus and people of art and starving artists or whatever they're attracting. What happens if Art Fusion fails? Or what if their owners hit the Powerball and decide to pull up stakes and move? What's plan B? And for that and other reasons, I cannot support a letter of approval. Thank you.
Mr. Proctor.
Well, to reiterate what I said on Wednesday night, for about 5 years, this has been by far the best proposal I've seen so far. Housing Vision seems very sincere, and the majority of the developers, when they come in, one of the first things they ask is how many units can I get out of this place. And that's not much that Housing Visions came up with. Obviously, yeah, sure, there are some risks. Mr. Kirkland and Mr. Wien outlined those very well, but I believe the benefits outweigh them. And I believe there is a market for the type of tenants that they're looking for. At a show in Phoenixville or in December, I was talking to some of the local artists, and they're getting priced out of Phoenixville. They'll need to go somewhere, and hopefully it would be here in Pottstown. And, or in some, probably right out of college, might have, limited income, and might want to get out of their parents' basement. That'd be a good place to go. And if I didn't think it was a good project, I live a block away from the place, so it's all the parking lots in my ward. The building itself is Mr. Wien's, but geographically I'm a block away, so I'll keep as close eye as I can on it as long as I'm on council. And $12.7 million is a lot of money.
Thank you.
So I'll send a letter of support.
Councilor Kopp, I know you're battling a cough and cold.
I've been thinking about this for a long time, and I was kind of torn away which would be best for town. We don't want vacant buildings. We don't want buildings falling down. We do want investors to come in and try to revitalize these areas that we live in. Is this the best project? We're hoping it is the best project. Do we have any other choices? Nobody else is standing in line waiting to develop this. From what I understand, the developer has a good reputation from other projects that he has done. Would it necessarily be a bad thing for Pottstown? Probably not. Whatever we have or whatever we develop, there's always going to be issues. And it doesn't matter if it's in a low income, a high income, there's always going to be something that's going to have to be dealt with. Just like the new shopping centers they put in. They think they're wonderful, but they still have police issues that have to be dealt with. There's traffic problems. It doesn't, I don't think it, for Pottstown, I think, after reading all these letters and all the people that we voted us in and we're to represent, I feel that, I think this will be a good project. I surely hope that it will come to fruition, and it'll be a very successful, and it'll be everything that everybody wants it to be. And I don't want to see another building go down. I'd like to see something done to this, just like out on Farmington Avenue with the Family Dollar. There was a lot of people against it, but would you rather have a dilapidated building just sitting there, or would you rather have something that the residents can use? And I think the more I listen, the more I think I like the project, and I think I'm gonna have to vote for it.
Councilor Miller.
I also have some concerns about the project. The concrete information that I currently have is the property assessment values for the basis of real estate taxes over the next 30 years are very low. In September, when Brian O'Leary of the Montgomery County Planning Commission presented a draft of the county comprehensive plan at the community college, I specifically asked the question, what efforts is the county making to decentralize subsidized housing in the borough, which already has a disproportionate high number? Although O'Leary admitted that he had no direct control, he said that they would discuss it with their partners at the Housing Authority. The owner-occupied residents carry the heaviest burden of real estate taxes, particularly school taxes, which are 16% above the state average. Towns are not revitalized through the addition of low-income housing where an overwhelming number already exists. They're revitalized through living wage job opportunities and market rate housing. I encourage emphasis on proactively and aggressively seeking commercial economic development for our vacant buildings. There is no question about the contribution of the arts to our community. But I have to ask, with Art Fusion and Steel River Playhouse on High Street, why hasn't the art community rallied to revitalize our downtown? I have all the hype about this project, but at this time, I do not have enough concrete information to favor the project.
Thank you. This is one point of a clarification too, and I could have misunderstood the one speaker, but this is the first time that we've been asked for a letter of support. Correct, Heather? Okay. We had no reason the other two times it was not the fault of council not giving a letter of support as to the failure. So the other two times, whatever the tax bureau or tax credit bureau, whatever that it was that they said that it was not feasible or not shovel ready, that was, we had nothing to do with that. Madam Mayor.
I have a statement as well regarding the Beach Street Factory project. Although the positioning of my statement was in the event that I had to break a tie on the so the fact that everybody's here is good for me. But I just wanted to restate several positions that I've taken prior to today, and most recently on the Beach Street Factory project. As I stated in the December meeting, we're in a place to move a significant project forward, hopefully serve as another spur to draw even more relevant investment. And I'm just going to interject here that I'm always going to represent issues on the caveat of equity, because I'm the mediator between these the community, the mediator between the development and the council, and the mediator between. So therefore, I'm going to come from a statement and a position of equity. So therefore, we have to guard the interests of people at the table, making the decision, and the impacts to the residents and their safety as an outsource of whatever happens. Even if it's fabulous, we still have that due diligence. And the first issue that did come up is parking. Yes. Now, whether it's relevant, whether it's created, whether it's already handled, there's still a perception out there that the issue with parking is a concern at this site. So I, as well, will be sending my own letter of support, because I heard Ms. Member say it was a matter of political support. Am I correct that I did hear you say that? It did not have political support. Correct. So since the only time that I would have an impact in the vote is in a tie, that doesn't seem to be a situation here. And as a point of making sure that the bureaucratic end of your seek for tax credits is successful, that is the point of order to make this support today. Not because we feel that everything's lined up in a row, because anything can happen from any given position. But after speaking with Ms. Schroeder of Housing Visions just before the last meeting, about some statements that I made publicly, about some statements that there came across the table publicly, and we settled our recourse on those issues. And also in an additional setting with Ms. Member in a meeting where there were some additional possibilities that would allay traffic and parking congestion. Those things are conditional on my support. Another concern that came up was the use of contractors and subcontractors from the local area. I think Councilor Wynn mentioned specifically the hiring of many people who are jobless. And we were also told that the contractor of choice has been chosen from Bluebell. And Bluebell is our neighbor in a very metropolitan sense. And I support the best contractor that's available. I did hear at least one counselor also, again, Mr. Wynn, he vied for those locally unemployed. That could have its challenges, as Ms. Member said. Many people might not have the skill sets to, have the job. But my inquiry on the same subject of hiring inquired as to the use of specific certified minority enterprises. On both of these points, there was never a mention from the table of the hiring of apprentices. However, subcontractors are able to hire whoever they want under their insurance as long as the tasks are accomplished. We do know that many local people often travel great distances to work on jobs, both as contractors and subcontractors. I'm sure these qualified individuals would love the opportunity to do what they do best and have dinner with their families at night while also building something in our very own community for a change. With that being said, I'd like to also read a letter of support that came from Sue Repko that I think also makes sense. If you have a minute for me to switch fields and find the letter. And this letter was addressed to me by email. Dear Mayor Valentine Thomas, I'm sorry that I had to work and could not attend the meeting today. I hope that this letter can be read into the public record. I am writing to ask you to support the Beach Street factory development being proposed by Housing Visions and Genesis Housing. With the addition of housing and commercial space for artists and the arts, the adaptive reuse of the Viceres building is just the kind of development envisioned by the borough's 2011 Heritage Action Plan, which she worked on as a consulting planner for the borough. Just a few of the many benefits anticipated with this mixed-use development are an infusion of capital flowing into the local economy from the more than $12 million in construction, the environmental, social, and safety improvements from putting a vacant building back into productive use, the stabilization of several blocks in the short run, and with Housing Vision's track record and commitment, the signaling of long-term stability to potential private investors in the surrounding market area. The promotion of arts and culture as a revitalization and economic development strategy for Pottstown. These kind of tax credit projects are typically very well managed over the long term because the private investors who have purchased the credits demand that the buildings remain in compliance with all laws and building codes so as not to jeopardize their investment, which is, after all, a tax benefit from the IRS. As I understand it, this development is a strong contender for tax credits from the state if Borough Council pledges strong support for the proposal. I urge you to do so with one voice. The alternative is to allow this large vacant structure and its immediate environs to languish, keeping Pottstown from daring to reinvent itself into the thriving, creative, collaborative community it can be and wants to be. Best wishes, Sue Repko, urban planner, author of Legendary Locals of Pottstown, and founder of Positively Pottstown blog. I also wanted to say something about the misnomers or the perceptions around affordable housing as well. And we must really find ways to bring the county into the loop of accountability for us and Norristown having a, like you say, Councilman Miller, a disproportionate share of Section 8 housing. Now, we have to figure out how to charge that back. Because if we're going to have to take on, and have already taken on, many of the higher end costs of the tenancies that arise from what we are sent from the county, then the county has to bear some of the fiscal burden and not have us keep making it a responsibility just to taxpayers. That is not good equity. So affordable housing cannot come to mean you can only afford to rent a house if you have a voucher, because that's what it really is. And there are landlords out there that will not rent to someone who does not have a voucher. And I know that to be a fact. So that condition wasn't created by any of us at this table, but it's for all of us to contend with when we have to interact with the different situations that come. Not discriminating, because sometimes owner-occupied properties and people are people and things happen, but we have to work with who's here and the conditions that are here to make them better, instead of pointing out how negative that person is all the time, instead of finding out a way to help make that person stronger from whatever their deficit is. That's the end of my report.
Thank you, Mayor. Manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Troney. As a reminder to council, the upcoming joint meeting between the Borough Council and the Pottstown School District is scheduled for Thursday, January the 29th at 7 p.m. at Rupert Elementary School. Happy to say that 2015 marks the 5th year that the Borough of Pottstown did not have to take out a tax anticipation loan at the beginning of the year. And I'd like to give a thanks to our finance director, her staff, and all of the department heads in the borough who've done a great job at towing the line on keeping the budget under control. I'll let council know that our architect, Kimmel Bogaret, has been working with our contractor, Stubner, to further refine the budget. It appears, we haven't met yet with them, but it appears that they've effected some savings in certain areas, which will give us a bit of a cushion as we go forward in case there are any issues that arise during the construction project. More to be found on that as we go along. As the project proceeds, we will continue to give council monthly updates at the council meetings. Currently the contract, well recently the contract underwent a review by our solicitor, and it is in the hands of Stubner as of late last week for their signature. Once that's done and the contract is executed, we will have the pre-construction meeting with the notice to proceed. More to come on that one. I want to let council know that one of our borough businesses, Precision Polymer, which is located at 815 South Street, has acquired several of the properties across the alley that front Queen Street. One of those properties, which is directly across from their facility, is being modified as we speak into a clean room facility so that they can do some of their work there. And in order to facilitate that, they're going to need to run a conduit under the alley from the South Street property to the Queen Street property for the purpose of data transmission and monitoring of automation. The procedure here in the borough is that they express an interest, they file an application with Public Works along with the work plans, an easement is developed, and as long as everybody's satisfied, it moves forward with a $250 a year stipend to maintain that easement. Currently, Mr. Garner is working on that stipend, or on the easement, and I would recommend, and I'm going to recommend, that we waive the $250 a year stipend for the following reason. When the project reaches completion, the alley, the entire alley from Madison to Eden Street will be reconstructed. Stormwater provisions will be made by Precision Polymer, and then the street will be repaid by Precision Polymer, or the alley, excuse me, by Precision Polymer at no cost to the borough. I think it'd be ludicrous for us to ask them for an annual stipend that will never even come close to what they're putting into the borough. So unless council objects to that, we will not be going after the $250 a year.
I was going to suggest that we do that, so I'm glad that's occurring.
And last but not least, this coming Monday, January 19th, in honor of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Borough Hall will be closed. which I believe nationally is a day of service. That's the end of the manager's report.
Any questions? Okay, finance, Councilor Wien?
Yes, we had a rather short meeting last Wednesday. We were given a review by our Director, Janice Lee, of 2014. We ended the year receiving 104% of the proposed budget and only expending 102% of the anticipated expenditures, which put us in a very good cash position. A little bit of cash will be going into reserves, one of our piggy banks for the future. We were notified that, as was just said in the manager's report, that the contract with Stubner has gone out. And we're taking a look at the ladder truck, which may need replacement in a year or so, 2 years. And last, our finance department is looking around for people to handle some of our investments, and they'll be having discussions with Susquehanna Bank. So rather brief, no events, no decisions made, but we're keeping an eye on everyone's money. Thank you.
Any questions? Safety, Vice President Gary.
Thank you. We did meet just prior to the council meeting